We went from a 1-11 season, three seasons in a row of 1-11, to a team that won 4 of our last 5, won our last 3. I think the players are beginning to expect to win games as opposed to just thinking they're going to lose no matter what. And that has to change. That's that culture of losing to a culture of winning. Now, it's nothing dramatic. We're not going to go out there and have the best talent in the roster necessarily this year, talent in the conference this year. We're not going to have the best players in the conference next year. What we have to go out and do is win our share of close ball games. The best we can ask for next year is to have teams that we're probably pretty close to, that we're pretty even to, that if we can go out there and win a close ball game, we'll have a chance to win some games.
That was Akron's head football coach, Mr. Terry Bowden, talking about the 2014 football season that is dawning upon us tonight as Howard comes in to InfoCision Stadium at 7 o'clock on ESPN3 to take on your Akron Zips. I am your host, Spencer Davies, alongside Jonah Sprindle on the board. How you doing, Jonah?
I'm doing great. It's great to have another college football season starting off, and it's going to be a good year for the Zips.
It is. Of course, Akron, representing the MAC, went 5-7 last year and 4-4 in conference and ended on a 3-game winning streak. Howard comes in out of the FCS. They went 6-6 last year and ended on a 3-game winning streak of their own. Now, what is your expectations for tonight's game?
It might be a slaughter, and it might be a close game. You kind of never know with Akron here. Of course, in Terry Bowden's first game as a head coach, they went out against a lower division school, beat them 60-6 or whatnot, and it was just a slaughter. Last year, of course, played a little bit of a better team in UCF, who eventually went on to win a BCS game, and we got slaughtered ourselves. So it's kind of hard to see here, but you've seen with the progress of the team from last year, good preseason this year. I think this team is going to come out and do big things tonight.
I also agree. I feel like ever since I have attended this place, they've gotten better. They really have. And that has to do with coaching, and it has to do with the discipline that Mr. Bowden has done. There were times where there were Division II schools that were either beating us or coming close to beating us, and that is not right for a Division I football team. This year, I think it's going to be a different story. Last year, you saw a lot of flashes, including that Michigan game. There was times where you would be in games with the MAC that you lost, that you were actually in. And the out-of-conference schedule isn't too bad this year.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see with this out-of-conference schedule. Of course, you got Howard tonight. Then you go to Penn State next week. You have Marshall at home, and then on the road again to Pittsburgh. So definitely 2 winnable games at home. And then those games on the road, you never know. I mean, Penn State hasn't been Penn State since Joe Paterno left the team. And Pittsburgh has never really been one of the top dogs football-wise. So definitely 2 games that you look back at Michigan last year, you think it was almost the upset then. Why not again this year?
And should have been. Okay, so let's take a look at the conference schedule this year. First, you have at home against Eastern Michigan. Then the following week, take on Miami of Ohio. Then they hit the road and go against the Ohio Bobcats, and then at Ball State. Come back home and play Bowling Green, at Buffalo, at home against Massachusetts, and then on the road at Kent State. So the Zips miss Northern Illinois and Toledo this year. That's huge.
Yeah, you look at this conference schedule compared to last year, and it's about 100 times easier this year. I mean, Eastern Michigan just is bad again this year. Miami of Ohio was terrible, possibly the worst Division I team, if not for Massachusetts. And then you got Ohio losing Tyler Tettleton from last year, was one of their key guys. You got Ball State losing their quarterback, Keith Wenning, who did wonders for them. And then you got Buffalo, who lost Khalil Mack, a couple guys on defense. They're not going to be as strong defensively this year. You got Massachusetts, which obviously Massachusetts. Kent State, who was, again, on another downswing after losing their coach and a couple players. Really, the toughest game you have on here is Bowling Green, and maybe the only tough game you have on here is Bowling Green. And, of course, they won the conference championship last year. They're going to be in it again. Matt Johnson might be the MAC Player of the Year, the quarterback for that team. But you got him at home, and you got him on one of those Tuesday night games. So we're going to see a lot of action here, and it's going to be a good game. Definitely circle that game on November 4th. You're going to want to be here for that game.
And don't always forget, you got Kent State, your biggest rival. I mean, you're
Right.
at Kent State. That's never a gimme.
I mean, never a gimme. Of course, last year we beat them at home when it looked like they were the better team coming off their appearance in the conference championship game the year before. But, of course, never a gimme. But you look at the Kent State team that they have, and maybe not so much. The best Kent State team that we've seen.
All right, now that we've talked about the conference schedule, let's talk about tonight's key players to the game for the Zips. At number 1, obviously, Mr. Quarterback Kyle Pohl. He's junior year, and last year he threw for 2,438 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. You're going to be looking for a lot of leadership out of him because he's grown up. He's getting up there, and he's going to have to show some leadership.
Definitely, and you can call that pretty much the key to this season. Obviously, Northeast Ohio, we know good quarterback play is the key to everything. Thanks, Browns. Johnny, Brian, come on, somebody step up. Of course, the Browns' last preseason game is tonight also, so we'll be watching that. But Kyle Pohl, it's his junior year. Gave him a little bit of a pass last year because he hadn't started. He'd only played in a couple games. So he's kind of feeling it out, kind of learning the ropes and all that. But this year he's got to come back. He's got to limit the turnovers. He's got to understand when to throw it away. He's got to find open guys before they get open. And he's really got to lead this offense. I feel like he should be able to do that.
He's going to get a lot of help, too, from the backfield. Jawan Chisholm returns for his senior year. Last year, he went for 869 yards, 8 touchdowns, and had 4.6 yards per carry. Do you think he's going to break out this year and maybe hit that 1,000-yard mark?
We've been waiting for it, haven't we? He was the main basis of the Rob Ianello offense, which not much.
Those were the teams those were the
Right.
D2 losses there in those days.
I don't know if you can call that offense, really, in fact. But coming into Terry Bowden's system, don't use the running back as much, and so we haven't seen him as much. He did start to pick it up at the end of last season, and what he needs to do is start running through the holes that are given to him. He's a dancer. He likes to go outside the tackles and find the different lanes out there, but he needs to shove it down their throats in order for him to be successful in this offense. And I think he kind of figured that out last year, and I think he can continue that definitely for his senior season. He's got to put up big numbers, and I think he'll do it this year.
Off the subject of running back, of course, the wide receiver core of Zach DeRazio, LT Smith, and Freshaw Bickley. They're going to have to pull some help this year. I feel like all three of them had a pretty good year last year. And they're all upperclassmen besides Bickley, I believe.
Yeah. The wide receivers are just as important as the running back position, especially, like I said, in this offense where you're throwing it a ton. So definitely going to have DeRazio and LT Smith step up this year. And Bickley's just such a fun player to watch. He can do so many different things.
Very fast.
Find him on the screen. Find him on the deep route. So he showed a lot playing in his freshman season last year. He was able to contribute to this team, and I think he'll definitely come back and play a big role this year.
It's nice to see, too, because he's a local guy.
Right, St. V guy. Everybody knows him from that, and then coming to Akron, definitely like that.
All right, so let's flip over to the defensive side of things. Justin March, he's also in his senior year. He's going to be probably the biggest guy on defense to impact the game and also be a leader on that side of the field. Just comment on what you think he's going to do this year.
I think he's going to continue his dominance, especially when you look at that linebacking core that you have. with Mizell, March, Jatavis Brown. Those three guys just are gonna dominate, and it's gonna be fun to watch all three of those together. But especially March, who had a couple interceptions last year. One he took back against Michigan, which totally changed that game. Looked like the Zips were going to lose that game or lose control of that game, and he stepped in and was able to make a big play there. So I think he's definitely going to step up. And then you also look at the defensive line. You got Cody Grice, you got Savon Pittman. They're gonna just mash on the defensive line. The big key here is the secondary.
Secondary did lose some people last year, and they're getting younger.
But with any football team, the secondary, you have to be good with it. You watch the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl.
Right.
They basically won that game because of their secondary and because of their defense. The guys in the secondary are going to have to step up in order for this defense to look good. It might not have to happen tonight because it's Howard, but definitely next week when you go on the road at Penn State, those guys are going to have to step up.
Who's going to be the biggest guy that the Zips are going to have to worry about tonight from Howard? Even though they're just in the FCS, they still could make something happen. We've seen it before.
They do have one guy, the co-MEAC player of the year, Greg McGee. Definitely a guy that's going to come out and play strong for Howard. He's the running back for their team. He